What's going on, guys? My name is Wouters, and today I'll be sharing with you 10 tips that will help you as a beginner longboarder. Let's get started. Alright, now as you might or might not know, I've made a lot of videos about longboarding, especially longboarding for beginners, to try to help you guys out along the way. Now there's some questions that just keep popping up, and today I'm gonna address some of those, plus I'm gonna give you some extra tips that will really help you out if you're starting to longboard. Now I'm gonna give a lot of value in this video, and I think there's gonna be some value for you even if you're already good at longboarding. So yeah, let's get started with the tips. Alright, now tip number 1 is, what's pushing mongo? Well, there's a lot of memes and stuff about pushing mongo on the internet. Now what it is essentially when you push with your front foot on the ground so your back foot is on the board. Now there's an unwritten rule in skateboarding about pushing mongo. If you push mongo, you're a beginner or you're considered a noob, and that's why there are quite a lot of memes about it and people on the internet making fun of people who push mongo. Now first of all, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with pushing mongo. There's no disadvantage or advantage over, like, it's essentially exactly the same, and quite a lot of like pro skaters and really good longboarders actually push mongo. But essentially what it comes down to is that if you do push mongo, people might make remarks about it, might make a little joke about it or whatever. And if you want to avoid that, there are a couple practical ways you can do that. Now first off, you could just say like, fuck it, I don't care what anyone says about me, I just do me. And of course that's the best solution and I totally support that. But I do think that a lot of people have problems with that because they don't have the confidence to do so. So I'm also gonna give you some practical tips to get over that and to try to avoid pushing mongo. Now first off, the first solution is learning how to push switch. So Wouters, the homie from in the videos, he actually pushed mongo when he started, and he was like, people consider this for beginners. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to learn to push switch, and of course it takes a long time to get used to pushing switch and stuff, and if you're a beginner that might be discouraging, but it's totally worth it because now Yacht can push switch and he can actually push both ways now because both his feet are trained to push. So that's a really cool way to turn your disadvantage into a real big advantage. Another practical tip is to push with your foot on the front of the board instead of the back of the board. And you just push normally and look switch, and then you step into a switched position. Now you can do a little hop, or you can do a 180 step or whatever to get into your normal position. Or something really cool I've seen a lot of people do too is actually put your foot in the middle of the board, so it just looks like you're pushing with your foot in the middle of the board, and then you can step into your normal position. Nobody will notice it because it's not that obvious, and I've seen a lot of people do that, and it's a really cool way of pushing mongo without anyone ever knowing about it. And then tip number 2 is always bring a skate tool. Like, a skate tool is one of the most essential things you can have as a skater or longboarder, and you never know when you need it. So it's a really good habit to always bring it with you in your backpack anywhere you go, just in case there's something that you need to fix, or a friend of yours has to fix something, or a random person on the street, whatever. I've asked people for skate tools a lot, just randomly on the street, and it's really handy. Now ironically, I don't have my skate tool with me because it's lost. The only thing I still have is this thingy right here, so that's quite ironical, but at the same time a skate tool is also something that's lost really frequently. At least for me, I lose it all the time, but luckily it's really inexpensive. It's like 10 to 15 euros, I guess. Yeah, it's really handy, you never know when you need it. And then tip number 3 is a really big one, I think, and it's be active on social media. Now you might be like, well, this isn't really a longboarding tip, but trust me, it is. Because there are a lot of advantages on posting your stuff on social media. First off, you can actually start building a following, even if you're a beginner longboarder. If you start up when you're actually starting longboarding like I did, you don't grow rapidly like crazy, but you do already start building up a following. So if there is a time when you're like, okay, I got some skills now, I'm gonna make some videos or make a video, sponsor me tape or whatever, there are already people who like what you're doing and they can help you. You get a following, you got a community, you're part of the community, and it's really cool because you see the community like growing together. You see people who are inspiring others, you get shout outs, you challenge people for tricks. For example, a lot of people ask me a question like, oh, I skate on my own all the time, you have tips for that? Well, get active on social media. Like, the whole world is like one community community right now, so why not join it? It's also really cool that you can start building an archive. You can start documenting your journey. For me, for example, I already filmed like videos since the first week I got my longboard, and it's really cool to look back on these videos. Also for tricks, for example, I can now look back on Instagram and see the clip of my first big spin. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can feel that stoke again. It's like those memories are captured, they're nicely organized, and it's a really cool way to share the stoke. Alright, and then next up is tip number 4, and that's learn how to pick up your board properly. Now, one of the easiest ways to spot a really beginner longboarder is when you see them pick up the board by bending over and actually grabbing the board while the board is still on the ground. That's one of the easiest giveaways of a really beginner longboarder. So it's a really cool thing to learn in the beginning how to properly pick up your board. Now there are a couple of ways you can do that. First off is the easiest, the mostly done, and that's kicking on the tail and trying to grab your board. Now this might be like kind of hard in the beginning, I understand that, and it's like totally normal to miss your board every once in a while. So that makes it a cool thing to practice, so that when you're out in traffic or in the city or whatever, you have to pick up your boards, you can do it in style, and it makes it look really smooth. So if you have a board that has really small kicktails, you might be like, well, fuck you, Hans, because I have really small kicktails and I can't pop it up. Now if you really use the tip of your toes to pop it, like really on the tail, then you still have enough pop to pop it up. Trust me, I've done it with a lot of boards with no kicktail. You can still do it, just use a lot of force, and yeah, there you go. Okay, so for tip number 5, now that we've learned how to pick up our boards when we stop, well, we might grab it wrong. So this is about mall grabbing. So this is also a really hot topic on social media, etc. It's kind of like the same unwritten rule as the mongo pushing, and that's if you grab your boards by the trucks like this, that's mall grabbing, and that's considered a noob move too. Now don't ask me who invented these rules, don't ask me why they exist. I think they're such bullshit. But like I said, these rules exist, and the one reason I can think of why they exist is that if you are a real skater or a real longboarder, you know that these rules exist and therefore you won't do them. So if you see someone doing those things, people consider it noobish. I think that's the only logical explanation I can find. So if you don't want remarks, you might want to avoid doing this in public. And I just want to pass it on so that you guys actually know it. If you still want to do it, I dig that. I just want to pass the knowledge on, because you know, one of my favorite quotes is still, knowledge is a shit. I'm low-key actually really proud of that quote. And then, boys and girls, we're moving on to tip number 6. Now this will be a controversial topic because it's safety. You see, safety, it's a really hard and really scary topic to talk about because people have a really strong opinion about it. Now, I still don't want to leave it out as this video because I think it's really important. And even though I might get some heat for this, I really don't want to leave it out as this video. So, safety, always the thing, is wearing helmets. Like wearing helmets, a lot of communities don't accept people who don't wear helmets, especially in the downhill community. Just like if you post something without a helmet, you will get bashed on for sure, like 100%. And I totally support that. Well, I don't support bashing on people, but I do support pushing forward the fact that people should wear helmets. For me, I'm really scared to talk about this because I don't want to come across as a hypocrite. I don't wear a helmet myself. I do want to say, and that's like the point I want to make right now, is that I actually wore a helmet for the first 2.5 years of my longboarding career. Every single second I was on my board. I didn't step on my board without a helmet a single time in the first 2.5 years of my longboarding career. I don't want to push it to you, I don't want to say you have to, like those downhill communities will, but I do think this can help you out, and let me explain this. So I think wearing safety gear, that's a helmet, hand pads, elbow pads, knee pads, I've worn all of these things, and my experience has taught me that it does give you more confidence if you're starting longboarding, and that's why I wore it as a beginner all the time. If you're starting up, you really lack confidence and you don't know how to fall yet. Me, I've never broken a single bone, and I'm pretty sure that I fall more than 99% of you guys. So during the years you learn how to fall without actually hurting yourself, and that's something that just comes with time. That's also a tip for people who ask me like, oh, I don't have confidence to do this or this or this. Well, you can break that routine by actually wearing some extra safety gear. You will gain some extra confidence and you might actually crush it. Now tip number 7 is a really quick one, and it's make sure that your trucks are tightened to your boards. As you can see right now, these trucks are not tightened to its boards, and if that's the case, then these nuts that go through your board and through your truck will vibrate a lot while longboarding. Those vibrations will cause a lot of stress on those points. They will actually make bigger holes out of it. Well, this is actually the most vulnerable spot on your board. That's right here. If these holes expand, then you're really fucking with your board. Just make sure you tighten them once you actually notice that they're a bit loose, and it's also a good way to make use of that skate tool you just got. Alright, and then next up is tip number 8, and that's practice how to get off curbs. Now curbs can really be your enemy if you are a beginner longboarder and you're cruising around in the city. Suddenly there's a curb you gotta get off of, and you don't want to step off your board every time you come across a curb. Now luckily there's a really easy way to get off those curbs, and I'm gonna teach you it. Now you're just gonna roll towards the curb with your back foot on the tail of your board, and you're gonna go a bit through your knees just before you approach the curb. As your front wheels are getting really close to the curb, you're gonna put pressure on your back foot, making the front wheels go up. Then the front wheels can go off, and at the same time you want to kind of like jump and just make a little hop with your body, just a bit. You don't even have to pop, you don't have to ollie your boards, none of that, and you can just keep riding away. Next up, tip number 9, is also a really practical tip, and it's learning how to jump on your board. Now this is one of the coolest ways for sure to get on your board. It's really worth practicing. Essentially it's a really easy thing. You just grab your board, you walk with your board next to you, and then you let loose of your board, you step on your boards, and that's it. Now this sounds really easy, it's not that hard either, but it does take some practice for a lot of people. So a couple of tips. First off, take it easy. There's no need of really rushing it. You don't have to do a kamikaze jump and then get on your board. There's no need for that. You can just relax, let loose of your boards, really chill, and then as you see your boards getting on the ground, you step on it with your front foot and your back foot follows. And then once you get more and more comfortable with the movement, you can do it faster, you can take a run before you do it. You immediately have a lot of speed and you don't have to push as much. And then next up, we're at tip number 10. It's the last tip I got for you guys today, definitely not least. So it's actually sharing the stoke with friends. So this is one of the things that has made me really happy in longboarding, is that I've been able to share the stoke I have for it with friends of mine. And yeah, now we have like this community, this team, this crew. Actually almost the whole longboard crew is just really homies of mine who actually also started longboarding. In the beginning I longboarded on my own all of the time, and yeah, of course I talked about it a lot. Yeah, this weekend I was longboarding and this happened and this happened, and then some of my friends also got like interested in it and they're like, oh yeah, it sounds pretty cool. So yeah, I invited them for a session and they joined the session, they really liked it, or they didn't, and then the session after they liked it, whatever. Good old Pidgey, he didn't longboard or skateboard or anything, he just joined us in the session. He was like riding on his back down the hill the whole time, just having fun. And then a couple of months later also bought a board, and now he's also been skating for a long time and actually also sponsored by Crownboards. I think that's one of the biggest tips I can give you. Just share the stoke. Don't expect them to get into longboarding, don't like push it or anything. And like that you can really build a community and also build friendships, new friendships, or strengthen the friendships you already have through longboarding. So that's it for today's video. I really hope you got some value out of this. Let me know in the comments what you think. What was the best tip for you? What didn't you know? Leave it all in the comments below. Also, no matter what your level is, if you have tips for the community, leave them down here, because I know there's a lot of people down here. I just really love longboarding and filmmaking. That's why I'm giving you all these tips, all this value. Plus I make weekly videos, so make sure you subscribe right here. I would really appreciate it. Like always, big hugs from Belgium, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.